There's more than one superpower in the world right now, whether we like it or not. China is making leaps in the technological realm, leaving the US and other countries in the dust. From launching the world's first quantum satellite, building the world's largest radio telescope, and landing a rover on the far side of the moon, China is advancing at light speed. Let's take a look at China's ambitious technological roadmap for 2050. In 2017, the Chinese government released a plan that aimed to make their AI industry numero uno by 2030. Since then, this country has been rolling out policies, funding initiatives, and strategic plans like the New Generation Artificial Intelligence Development Plan for its vision of AI supremacy. And they're not alone in this. They've collaborated with Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba, and even SenseTime. Now, one thing that gives China an edge is its ginormous population. With so many people, they're swimming in an ocean of data, and this data is like fuel for their AI algorithms. They're working on everything from natural language processing and image recognition to even recommendation systems. Speaking of health, do you remember that infamous gene editing scandal a few years ago? Well, China's been on a genetic engineering roller coaster ride ever since. Despite that messy situation, China is all about that CRISPR life. They're using this gene editing tool for everything from agriculture to editing genes in animals and even medical applications. Chinese researchers were the first to use CRISPR in monkeys. With the lightning speed and precision of CRISPR, researchers in China have been creating monkey models of diseases like muscular dystrophy, autism, and cancer. Of course, they need to make sure their regulatory guidelines align with international standards to keep everything in check. But if they can do that, get ready to see China leading the way in genetic engineering. That too in the near future. Now, moving on to the vehicle side, China has developed a special material for hypersonic vehicles that can handle long flights without getting all messed up. In a top-secret military test, they applied this thin material to a Wave Rider aircraft, a plane that rides its own shockwaves for improved lift. They even cranked up the heat around the aircraft to thousands of degrees Celsius, just to see what would happen. And guess what? This smooth material not only kept the aircraft cool from the inside, but also allowed wireless signals to flow freely. They even flew a hypersonic vehicle around the entire globe in 2021, leaving the US military scratching their heads in disbelief. Now, the Chinese scientists behind this breakthrough called it a complete success and even published their findings in a fancy schmancy journal. This new thermal protection technology opens up endless possibilities for longer range and faster hypersonic flights. Moreover, in the hypersonic race, China is facing challenges head-on and turning them into opportunities, just like defying the laws of physics. Meanwhile, over in the US, they've faced setbacks in their hypersonic program. China has been leading the charge in renewable energy production for over a decade, but now they're ramping up the installation of wind power, leaving other countries in the dust. This country wants 80% of its energy to come from non-fossil fuel sources by 2060, and by 2030, China aims to have a mind-blowing 1,200 gigawatts of solar and wind power capacity. Now, it's the first time China has made such a bold commitment to a renewables-dominated future. They're ready to overhaul their entire energy system, from planning to storage to distribution. Moving on, with nearly 4 billion people living in cities worldwide, and that number expected to soar even higher by 2050, the pressures of urban life are becoming too much to bear. But China has a plan. They're going all in on smart cities, which means they're bringing data-sharing smart technologies, like the Internet of Things, IoT, working their magic to improve energy efficiency, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and enhance the quality of life for city dwellers. But this smart city idea is not new. It goes way back in 2011 when they announced their grand plan to develop digital cities across the nation. Now, they're investing big time in 5G, AI, new energy vehicles, cloud computing, and so much more. China even set aside $1.4 trillion in 2020 to support technological innovation in these fields. And China's tech giants, Alibaba and Huawei, are leveraging their expertise and resources to support the development and deployment of smart cities. China is also making significant strides in the field of nanotechnology, and they're doing so with gusto. They've got the big bucks, a talented workforce, and strong collaborations with other countries, the US, EU, Japan, and Russia. The Chinese government is making it a strategic industry in their 5-year plan. Plus, they've got some legislation and regulations to back it all up. What's even cooler is that they've managed to bring back home some top-notch researchers and scientists who went abroad for their education. China's not just relying on the government, though. They've got public-private collaboration going on. Now, a shining example of their success is the Nanopolis in Suzhou, the world's largest nanotech industrial zone. They've got private companies and new startups doing their thing in this futuristic city. And let's not forget about the private sector leading the research and development charge. While state-sponsored institutions dominate in other industries, the private sector is rocking it in nanotechnology. They're doing everything from cloning to cancer research, and even exploring the mysteries of the sea and space. Now, we all know the future is quantum computing. China is also aware of that. Chinese researchers have been at it since 2010, studying these ultra-cold atomic systems. Recently, they managed to entangle not just 2 atoms, but 8 and 10 atoms at a time. It's a crucial step toward creating practical processors for quantum computers. Now, a quantum computer with 10 quantum bits, or qubits, is like having the memory capacity of 2 to the power of 10 bits in a regular computer, and the computing power gets exponentially better with more entangled particles. To pull off this quantum entanglement feat, the Chinese team used optical lattices. But they faced a challenge. How do you entangle more than 2 atoms at once? Well, they came up with new gadgets and technologies like an optical super lattice, a quantum gas microscope, and 3 digital micromirror devices. The team even used about 100 ultra-cold rubidium atoms for their experiment, and guess what? They created entangled pairs with a fidelity of over 95% and a lifetime of over 2 seconds. Then they took it up a notch and connected these pairs to form chains and blocks of entangled atoms. Well, this breakthrough has some serious implications. We're talking about high computational power for data analysis, optimization, and even cryptography. Plus, it could lead to advancements in materials science, drug discovery, and even climate modeling. Even more, China is shooting for the moon and beyond with its next-generation crewed spacecraft. This spacecraft is going to take Chinese astronauts to the moon, help build China's very own space station, and even explore deep space. We'll have to wait a bit to see this spaceship in action, as the first flights are scheduled for 2027 and 2028. However, in 2020, China did a test launch with a pretend version of the spacecraft just to get a taste of what's to come. They even put the return capsule from that test on display for all the space enthusiasts to marvel at. China's got big dreams of sending their taikonauts, that's what they call their astronauts, to the moon by 2030. And to make it happen, they're developing a brand new rocket called the Long March 10. This next-gen spacecraft is going to be a superstar in the galaxy. There'll be a version that can take 3 astronauts to the moon, and another one that can transport 4 to 7 astronauts to China's shiny new space station called Tiangong. Right now, China uses a spacecraft called the Shenzhou to send astronauts to low Earth orbit. Yang Liwei himself was the first Chinese astronaut in space during the Shenzhou 5 mission back in 2003. Moreover, the crew of Shenzhou 16 is chilling out at the Tiangong space station as we speak. They arrived in May and are planning to stay for about 6 months. And with that, it's a wrap for today's tech journey through China's impressive strides. Until our next exploration, stay curious and see you soon.